Kill Bill remains as one of the most divisive entries in the filmography of Quentin Tarantino. People either love it or hate it. Tarantino has always gone through a sub-genre phase before switching. You can see his start in the crime genre, with Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown, criminals having pop cultural witty conversations, before getting tangled up in a heist, hit job, or a con job that goes horribly wrong. Recently, he settled into revamping the Western genre with Inglourious Basterds. Although not set in the West, he still treats it as the same. Django Unchained and The Hateful Eight. There are some exceptions to the rule, of course, like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood being his massive love letter to Hollywood from the late 60s, and even then, it has a Western element. And Death Proof, to which I only take as the fun exploitation throwback project that he did with Robert Rodriguez. If I were to recommend a Tarantino film to a first-time viewer, it wouldn't be Death Proof. Although I still love that movie for what it is, a fun exploitation throwback, which has one of the most underrated car chases in cinema history. But this is where Kill Bill stands alone, a fusion of the Japanese martial arts genre and culture, mixed with a spaghetti western. Arguably, I'd say it's his most stylized film to date. The type of film Kill Bill is, you never really saw coming in his prior back catalogue, and haven't quite seen since. As much as I think Inglourious Basterds and Django Unchained are timeless masterpieces and should be reviewed in film schools for the rest of all time, I often think Kill Bill may be my favourite Tarantino film to constantly revisit. As I said before, you either love it or hate it, which I respect either way. I don't think this video is going to make you change your perspective on it, but something I've heard multiple times throughout my life is a certain opinion that I just don't understand. Man, the ending of Kill Bill 2 sucks. The first one ends with this badass epic action scene where people are getting slaughtered, and the end of the second movie is so lame. So this video will be breaking down the conclusion to Kill Bill and why I think the way the story ends is just as epic as the bride slicing up Oran's bodyguards of the Crazy 88. This video will also be referring to Kill Bill as one big story. For those of you who think Kill Bill Volume 1 was a movie that came out and then they made a sequel, no. It was always one big movie that they decided to cut in half later. That's why it's Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2 instead of just Kill Bill 1 and 2. But why I wanted to make a video on the conclusion to specifically Volume 2 is because there is so much complexity going on with just the two characters alone that is just as worthy of a massive action set piece showdown like Volume 1. We're going to take a look at how the showdown is staged, a set piece technique of Tarantino's that we've seen many times throughout his movies, something that shows a battle of the soul and mind without fists, swords, or guns. So, the final scene in Kill Bill is a certain type of set piece. It's one of 3 scenes from Tarantino's movies that has always stuck out to me. Essentially, 2 characters will start off the scene with their own personal agendas. Through the conversation and choreography of emotions, the characters will be completely changed by the end of the scene and will leave with completely shifted perspectives. Jules and Ringo in the diner in Pulp Fiction, Beatrix and Bill at the hotel, Hans Landa and the milk farmer at the start of Inglourious Basterds. This video will feature spoilers for the 2 other films, but if you're watching this and you haven't seen the other 2.
What's going on here? What's going on? What's going on here? What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing?
All 3 of these scenes begin with a certain atmosphere and you sort of have an idea of where it's going. But all 3 scenes completely subvert your expectations emotionally. The scene at the start of Inglourious Basterds is just the opening scene which establishes our main villain and one of the characters from later on in the story. It isn't a massive connection to the rest of the movie, seeing as the farmer character doesn't make a return. So I can actually just treat this scene from Inglourious Basterds as a film school lesson, because the choreography of one of these scenes isn't just the dialogue you write. There's also a very unique dance between the actors' performances and the camera dynamics. Even the language of how you show these characters visually adds to the inner conflicts of what they're going through.
But if that's too cryptic, let's get literal.
So, Inglourious Basterds starts. A milk farmer is chopping wood. His daughters signal to him that there are people approaching. Nazis. Out steps our main antagonist of the film, although from a narrative point of view, we don't know that yet. As far as you know, Nazi bad, farmer good. But the entire point of this scene isn't just to establish that Hans Landa is not only just a bad guy, not only that he's smart, but that he's 50 steps ahead of you. The beginning of this scene, Hans Landa is bubbly and charming towards the farmer. He requests a sample of the farmer's milk to compliment, trying to make the farmer feel like he's a good Nazi. And even the framing plays into this facade. The farmer and his daughters are all standing, which makes them give off this tense vibe. But Hans sits right down and instantly makes himself at home, to which affects the framing. Everyone is towering over Hans, while he is sitting lower to them, which makes him seem like the lesser person to everyone else. Reminds me of this particular frame shot in Scarface, which always makes me laugh. After Tony Montana's violent rise to power, he finally has everything he's ever wanted, sitting in a ludicrous spa bath in his own bedroom, and he's just running his mouth at the the TV while everyone around him is over his bullshit. It cuts to this one shot in mid-rant where he's in the lower corner of the frame just showing how pathetic his ego is.
The fucking bankers, the politicians, they're the ones that want to make coke illegal.
When the farmer's daughters leave the house and it's just him and Hans, the framing still stays wide. This is now just two people sitting at a table, but staying as wide and mid-shot so you get to take in everyone's body language at once. Hans's body language gives off, he's just there to double check his books. He's also very friendly, making the farmer feel more settled, to which you can get the sense from the farmer that if he just answers his questions, there won't be any issues and the Nazis will leave. And it's at this moment, Quentin shows you something. Not something before the Nazis showed up, not one of the daughters running around to the other side of the house to reveal something while the farmer and Hans are talking. No, Quentin shows you that there are Jews hiding under the floorboards. After you just felt a little bit less tense from Hans and the farmer settling into a conversation, he lets you know that there is an element to this scene that can go horribly wrong. Shoshana, who we'll see later in the film, has her hand tightly covering her mouth to not make a sound, which is how you would assume they would get found out if that's where the scene is going, which is not. The farmer pulls out a pipe to smoke, to which Hans pulls out not just his own, but a comical trumpet of a pipe. This is a brilliant little moment designed to get a slight chuckle out of the audience before everything changes forever. This scene will not go wrong because one of the people under the floorboards makes a noise and then Hans goes, "What was that?" And then the jig is up. No. Hans already knows the farmer is hiding Jews. He knows exactly where he's hiding them, but he's not some Nazi grunt following orders. He's a detective, a damn good detective, and he's going to make the farmer hand him the Jews himself on a platter. Once this reveal happens, the framing follows suit. After the drawn out, safe, wide framing, getting an idea of these characters, the camera begins zooming in on their faces. Hans knows the farmer's secret and the farmer has no chance to talk his way out of this. So the framing is so claustrophobic. It's right in their faces. This entire time you've been reading body language, but after this character reveal, you're just reading the eyes. Everything is now known and is too late. Once the farmer points out where the Jews are hiding, Hans stands up, and look at the reverse framing. The start of this scene, everyone was standing and Hans was sitting, showing that he's not a threat. Now look at this shot. The farmer is sitting defeated and Hans is standing with all the power. But there wasn't some epic battle or shootout in between. It was two people sitting at a table. Pulp Fiction's ending plays this exact game, but almost in reverse. It starts with the danger and then talks its way out of it. Jules and Vincent have been through a rough day, to say the least. They are enjoying breakfast at this diner, and two nutjobs decide to rob the restaurant as an annoying cherry on top. But unlike Inglourious Basterds, we have a good understanding of what these two types of characters are by this point. The perfect picture is painted already. But also like Inglourious Basterds, this scene does not go the way you would assume it would, based on the rest of the movie. Pumpkin and Honey Bunny have the entire restaurant under siege. They are collecting everyone's wallets and the cash from the register. They are screaming, the camera is handheld and frantic, but who's just sitting there, cool and unfazed? Of course it's Jules. Once Pumpkin, who we will now refer to as Ringo, notices that Jules isn't in a panic like the rest of the customers, and he locks right onto him.
So we got a vigilante in our midst.
Shoot him in the face.
They have a little intimidation back and forth when this amazing switch happens when Ringo is distracted by the mystery briefcase. What was going to be a hostage situation is now a reverse hostage situation. Not only does Jules have the power, he also has a bigger gun. Easy shot, but once again, it ain't going the way you think it's going. And the camera dynamics are playing into this too. Jules is in control, Ringo is frozen, so the camera still remains locked off, and we are still framed in wides and mid shots, featuring both actors in the same frame. Even though Honey Bunny is screaming, it still doesn't change the camera movements at all.
Vincent, it's cool, baby. It's cool.
I love how simple this reveal is. Camera doesn't start shaking. He just shows up in the wide shot. No shot of Vincent walking out from the toilet, seeing the standoff, pulling out his gun, and then announcing himself. As Jules demands everyone involved in the standoff to be cool, the cinematography also obeys. Even during this event, Vincent is confused. With both of them pointing guns at these two nobodies, why would there be any tension? But there is.
Jules, you give that fucking Nimrod $1,500 and I'll shoot him on general principle.
Yolanda, he ain't gonna do a goddamn motherfucking thing. Vince, shut the fuck up!
This could have been a 2-minute scene if Jules and Vincent just wasted these two and left. But Jules is forming a new outcome on life, and he's dragging these two through it. These two are on edge because they expressed at the start of this movie that they don't actually want to kill people. They are the opposites of Jules and Vincent, who kill for work like it's nothing. What isn't quite shared in the Inglourious Basterds scene is they keep cutting back to these profile mid-shots of Jules and Ringo. Seeing as this scene is somewhat of a standoff, they are framed at the edge of each shot, facing each other. At this time, we finally bring the camera around to the front front of our characters. We are no longer taking in their body language, we are now reading their eyes. This is where Jules is now figuring himself out. And something else of note is every frame has had a gun in it. The wides, the mids, the side shots, and even the close-ups. You still have the looming threat of this becoming a shootout, but the gun is now at the bottom of frame out of focus. The threat of a shootout is now visually lessened, so we can just focus on the empathy of these characters. Without Ringo saying a word, you can read it in his eyes. And then one of the most relieving sounds in cinema history happens. Now, after seeing how these two thieves were just jumping around and screaming, robbing the restaurant, did you ever expect that they would be leaving, not just with all the money they stole, but regretful and holding each other in defeat? Even though Jules was rambling about how shook he was from not getting shot earlier in the film, leading to him thinking it was divine intervention, did you expect him to use these two nobodies as the conduits to go on his personal revelation with? Or did you expect him to just shoot them and then go home and think about his feelings later by himself? Not in this epic conclusion. You thought all these characters were one way the entire film, and here we witnessed actual change of just two people sitting at a table. Now obviously Tarantino didn't invent this type of set piece. It's all throughout cinema. There's a great example of this in The Shining when Jack and the waiter are talking in the bathroom. Starts in wides, the waiter is cleaning the spilt drink off of Jack's coat. Jack recognizes that the waiter is the previous caretaker of the hotel and tries to call him out on it. And through the ghostly reveal of the scene, we punch in for mid shots and close-ups. And it's all revealed that Jack is the caretaker and there's something more sinister about this waiter. You start off by reading the body language and then it ends on their eyes and everything's been flipped. But the reason I'm putting so much on these scenes from Tarantino is because he writes dialogue like nobody's business. The characters he creates and where he takes them through these scenes of just two people having a conversation and how it applies to the ending of Kill Bill. The bride went through hell and back to get her revenge. And what you get to is Bill slouched at a table, drinking heavily, and the bride is chastising him. We have been waiting 2 movies worth leading up to this moment, and the showdown still follows the simple camera dynamics that lead up to the epic conclusion. Starts with wides, moves in for 2-shot mids. As it gets deeper into who these characters are, we push in for close-ups, and it ends with tears and smiles. But why Kill Bill concluding with 2 people at a table is just as satisfying as a second epic showdown where Bill has double the crazy 88, the psycho 176, is because this isn't just a warrior's journey. This isn't just an eye for an eye. It's much more personal. And now I'd like to mention that this video is brought to you by the good people at NordVPN. Are you sick of finding out that certain content you want to watch is region locked? Well, for years, I'd walked straight into the trap of watch every South Park episode here for free in HD. Well, a gullible click away and I was met with, this isn't available in your country. This is where NordVPN has you covered. Don't miss your favorite content, even when traveling abroad. Stay home virtually. Well, actually, your home can now be virtually anywhere. It's just a click away. Open the map, click on the location, and you'll be connected within seconds. And also, by changing your VPN address, you can stop God knows who from bloody creeping on you. Don't delay, call today. And by call, I mean jump on this amazing holiday season deal by going to my personal URL, nordvpn.com/CaudryFX, or use the coupon code CaudryFX to get a 2-year plan plus 1 additional month with a huge discount. Does that sound good? Or does that sound good? Head on over to NordVPN today and you won't be disappointed. Also, thank you NordVPN for keeping the lights on. Bloody Dark Ages is just around the corner. The other reason why this video focuses on Kill Bill Volume 2 is because if it was just seen as one big movie, then it's one big arc. And so when you look at each volume separately, Volume 1 is the style and Volume 2 is the substance. Kill Bill Volume 1 is basically what its own stereotype is, the Japanese samurai action movie throwback, which is an absolute fun ride to sit through. Volume 2, although yes, it's stylized, don't get me wrong, is the part of the story that does nothing but throw the emotion at you. And once again, this is a video about Kill Bill, but I'm going to bring up Pulp Fiction again to sort of explain my point on how Tarantino uses style to make you feel settled and then smacks you in the face with substance. But hey, this is masterclass cinema, it's not a movie review. So let's learn some film techniques. So this was going to be its own masterclass cinema episode at one point, but I figured I'd just use it as a mini example here. The stark contrast between Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2 is a different kind of game that Tarantino plays, which I feel defines the brilliance of Pulp Fiction. What most people remember about Pulp Fiction is the style and the dialogue, which is a masterclass in itself. But that's just how he lures you in, with the witty dialogue, the type of conversations the characters have, the cool cinematography, the music choices. You settle into enjoying the cinematic stylized experience. But then the movie introduces an element of realism that throws you out of that comfort zone. This is what I like to call Tarantino's use of style and substance. Even from the very beginning, these two thieves are having this hip 90s indie witty conversation about robbing banks. You're just watching two people having a private conversation, isolated to everyone in the diner. And then...
Everybody be cool, this is a robbery!
Then we have Jules and Vincent having a cool and funny conversation about American fast food in Europe, which then turns into gossip and banter about the boss, and then foot massages. These two just seem like regular Joe Blows. But then you have to sit through this tense scene of them antagonizing these small-time nobodies with guns, using things they only just discussed before while being in character.
Come on, let's get in character.
Not the strongest of points yet, but this film is only ramping it up. Following this, we get the cinema porn date between Vincent and Mia Wallace, stylized to the point where a cartoon happens.
Don't be a...
This is where it feels like European cinema. It's all about the setting and the conversation. It's so fun to just sit back and enjoy the style. But then Mia Wallace snorts heroin, and then it's like the style button is switched off. What follows is frantic panicking, the camera is now handheld and running around, all of the characters are yelling over the top of each other.
What the fuck you need a medical book for?
What to do? I never had to give an adrenaline shot.
You've never given an adrenaline
I never had to, alright? I don't go toy about with a bunch of bubble gummers. My face can't handle that. Get shot! I am if you let me. I never fucking stop with you. Stop talking to me. Start talking to her. Shot! Right!
He tricked you with style first, and then he hit you with substance. Next, the Butch story. Back to style. Then another fun, stylized dialogue scene between Butch and the cab driver. They are in color against a black and white projection screen. Just settle in and enjoy how artsy it all is. And then what happens in this story? Well, if you've seen it, you know. The final story, on the other hand, does this in reverse, picking up from the first story with Jules and Vincent leaving the apartment and shooting Marvin by accident, then needing to deal with the dead body. A very whack but realistic situation that they need to get out of.
Jimmy, she ain't gonna leave. Don't fucking Jimmy me, Jules! Okay?
And then the sudden burst of drama with the robbery in the restaurant. Then it settles back into stylized with the diner conversation as broke down earlier. This is always the contrast I feel whenever I marathon both Kill Bill volumes. Every single aspect of volume 1 is so stylized with its dialogue, music choices, cinematography, editing. From start to finish is just this action anime setting, as well as having a whole chapter in anime. The hero has been wronged and now she's working her way back to strength to get her revenge, gaining a new powerful weapon. The main villain is only heard, not seen. Colorful villains with Ellie in the nurse's outfit. Oren's entire portrayal and setting just screams anime villain, bordering on video game. Like the showdown would be no different if they had health bars, iconic costume upgrades, the whole shebang. Now, Volume 2 recalls the intro moment from Volume 1, as well as this stylized recap of the first movie. However, if you watch Kill Bill the whole bloody affair, there is no recap, just go straight to the next chapter. But when it's separated, Volume 2's real first scene is so natural and straightforward. We finally get to see the bride behave like a regular person, even with the face reveal of Bill. He just seems like a normal guy. If this was the first thing from Kill Bill you'd ever seen, you wouldn't even know that she was a skilled world-class assassin and he was an evil, powerful bad guy. The style button was switched off, and who you thought was the hero and villain are now just people.
What are you doing here?
Well, a moment ago I was playing my flute. This moment, I'm looking at the most beautiful bride these old eyes have ever seen.
And even following this scene, we get such a heart-to-heart scene between Bill and the now introduced final member of the Deadly Viper Squad, Bud.
I don't dodge guilt, and I don't chew out of paying my comeuppance.
Can't we just forget the past?
And despite being a piece of shit, here's one of the most heartfelt lines in the entire movie.
That woman deserves her revenge. And we deserve to die.
In fact, these first two scenes are such a departure from the good versus evil aesthetic from Volume 1. This is the style and substance. From Volume 1, all you need to know is Bill, bad, bride, good. She's working down the list to get to Bill. So far, she's killed 2 people without any compassion. They are just names on this list. But the way Volume 2 begins, you learn that once she gets to Bill, it won't be as black and white. Now, I've done a lot of talking about the technical filmmaking aspects that led to the conclusion of this film. But if you want me to make a breakdown of the emotional aspects of this journey, how these 2 characters not having a violent, bloody showdown with swords is still the perfect ending, like this video, comment letting me know, and share this video to boost the algorithm. Until next time, thanks for watching.